Th- th- Thank you, Lotika. So, as we were trying to say, like, I think doing this within 2 hours would have been a challenge anyways, but ever since we have started to plan for this meeting, there were a number of people who were touched by the work of Saibaba directly or indirectly and would like to say a few words. So I'll start with Ramu, who is an anti-caste activist from Amlapuram, which is where Saibaba is from in the room. So um,
Thank you, Sagar, and all the participants. I may not take much time, but I want to share a few things which are actually already said, like already many speakers, including the Vasantaka and Manjir and all, everyone mentioned about it. So I would like to tell, I never met Professor Saibaba in person, but I traveled with him through his struggles and all. When I was in university, it was 2016-17, and there was issues going on, and I was aware about him, how he was incarcerated for his works. So I would mention two things. As many were saying, mentioned that how he was building an international movement against the injustice and all, but other things as well. In 1998, there was a Warangal Declaration for the Telangana separate statehood. So Saibaba is coming from the coastal state. The Telangana is actually the backward region within the Andhra Pradesh. Even though he is coming from the coastal Andhra, and Amlapuram is somewhat a rich area, but as a person, as an individual coming from the most marginalized, oppressed community, so he has gone through certain experiences that no individual, that all many of us have a commonality. Like if we have gone through the oppression, we know that how it hurts, and we work for every oppressed people in the world. This is exactly what Saibaba is. So Saibaba was voicing for all the marginalized and oppressed communities across the world, from Kashmir, Basta, whether it is Srikakulam or Amrapuram or is it Telangana. So he was also one of the best intellectual who has the skills of organization, how to organize people. So this Warangal Declaration was a huge, big success. In 1988, around 2 lakhs people were mobilized, and Saibaba was the key member who was part of this movement. And later in 2009, the farmer protests were organized in Mumbai and Delhi, and Saibaba was playing key role in it. A person coming from the most backward area, from the oppressed community, he is doing politics in Delhi and questioning the oppression, questioning the powerful state and institutions. Also, I would like to say one more thing. If you're looking into the history of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the Naxalite movement was very high in 80s and 90s because the feudal caste system was very high. It was very oppressive. But the next transition was started in 2005 when the global mining mafia and the monopolizing the one, they're looking at the minerals in the Adivasi areas as well as the coastal areas as well. So 2000 there was Sompet killings in Andhra Pradesh, and there was many power plant proposed in Srikakulam and all. So people like Saibaba was the first intellectual who's bringing these issues and bringing the thing, how the world and how the mining mafia is looking at the minerals to use the violence, and this the Operation Green was part of that. So Saibaba was the first person who had used the word, even urban Naxal, to justify him. So what we have idea of Naxalism is someone who has actually gun, not pen or a mind. So to actually justify his arrest and to justify the cruelty against Professor Saibaba, they brought this term even. So he was the first person intellectual in India was named after urban Naxal, and he was given before 2-3 years before the famous Bhima Koregaon, what we all know, the 60 people who were, even the Father Stanstomy was arrested. So what I was actually why I was interested in Saibaba, because when we are in university, we reading about political theories, political struggles and across the world, and the same story was Speaker mentioned that the Gramsci. It was same story I was listening because Gramsci was, we already know, we talk about organic intellectuals and how Gramsci was targeted and imprisoned by the fascist regime in Italy. The same thing happening here, and people are just, it was not even in news for many people. When the people in the mainstream are able to talk about it, but even in university, when I was talking about people, like, it's not a big deal for them. But people coming from very oppressed people going to the violence and all, we cannot just sleep when things are going like that. And also, I would like to say a few things about Amalapuram also. So Amalapuram is a really rich, fertile area where the huge land is covered under the barrage, which is famous Godavari barrage, and it's really fertile, rich area. But also the land holdings of the upper caste are very, very high. 2 years before, the Amalapuram is comes under the Dr. Ambedkar Konaseema district. So when the district was renamed after Baba Sahib Ambedkar, one minister, one member of legislative houses were burned, and both of them belongs to the both belongs to the Dalit communities. So that is the area where the Professor Saibaba is coming on. So he knows how things are actually in him personally and politically. So he cannot separate himself from the personal and politics. So that's why he was refused to compromise and whatever things he's going through. And I would like to express, like, I want to bring one more issue. Like, I have started a study circle on Professor Saibaba's name. Professor Saibaba study circle. I would like to ask people to join with me as well. It's a beginning only, but we will not leave these things because we are all. No one is free until the oppressed is free. Yeah. Long live Sai Baba. Jai Bhim.
Thank you so much, Ramu, for I think with your idea of how you want to keep Professor Saibaba's work alive through the reading circle. So we will send it out across our newsletter, and if people want to get in touch with Ramu, do let us know if you don't know him personally, and we can share his details. So next, I would like to invite Ahmed from Anti-Imperialist Front London to come and say a few words, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ahmed, representing the Anti-Imperialist Front. We are honored to be invited here tonight for memorial of Sai Baba and in the presence of Basanta, his wife and daughter, and other guest speakers. And hopefully I can at least sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
And hopefully I can at least share something useful, or at least my experience with interacting with his work, just to show the impact he had. He represented the progressive democratic movement of the Indian masses, resisting the Hindutva state's oppression. Despite it being one of the most brutal fascist regimes to currently exist, he held steadfast. For his entire life, he fought for his people who were being massacred. The illegitimate excuses given were superficial, which the state has always used, labeling every villager as a Maoist and thus a necessary target to be killed, himself being martyred as a result of this blatantly reactionary policies by the state. What is ironic is that the state proclaims itself to be independent, yet this act, named the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act, as mentioned by some of the previous speakers, was a continuation of British colonial policies. It was brought in by Indira Gandhi, and herself being a reactionary, most might know her for the oppressive policies towards Sikhs or towards forced sterilization programs that she did. And since 1967, it's gone through many iterations by the fascist state, in whichever way they feel like it's necessary, so they can arbitrarily oppress people even more. And two people have made the Gramsci reference now, so like unfortunately I'm going to be the third one, but that's what comes to my mind when I read about what the judge said, and the reality of the situation is that Gramsci and Saibaba will be remembered and they will continue to be studied. So they have failed utterly to stop their minds from working. Professor Saibaba made clear that the current state will do anything they can to sell the precious resources present in the lands under its control and occupation, despite the harm it might cause its people. Clearly, still submitting itself to the imperialist mindset, primarily to sell to multinational corporations and hoping to reap whatever profit they can in the process. To be clear, what the Indian fascists call denying development when they accuse Saibaba of being a terrorist is nothing but an excuse to defend, nothing but an excuse to profit off the most marginalized people, whilst Saibaba himself took part in struggles to defend the most marginalized people from being uprooted from their land and ecological destruction of their land for the profits of these few multinational corporations. So in reality, what he was charged for was protecting his community from de-development. Born in 1967 in the small town of Umlapuram, Saibaba's life was marked by a steadfast commitment to social justice from a young age. Even as a student, he participated in any mass movement that he could find. Essentially, whenever it popped up, he just took part in those, and he amplified those struggles. It was here that he met his wife, Vasanta, and with whom he would forge an unbreakable partnership in the struggle for a more just world. As I can't add anything about this wonderful relationship, but to state the obvious briefly, this is a perfect example of what revolutionary romance should look like. And one anecdote I read that struck me is how Vasanta once stated she would never shed a tear in front of the reactionaries, despite the torture they were putting Prof. Saibaba through, so they could not claim any victory. They shared a common struggle which embodied their statement that a true revolutionary is guided by love. Saibaba's activism only intensified as he pursued his doctorate. He became a key figure in the Revolutionary Democratic Front, spearheading campaigns that exposed state repression and defended the rights of Adivasis, farmers and workers, whether condemning the horrors of Operation Green Hunt or championing the cause of political prisoners. Saibaba's words carried the weight of unwavering conviction. Even in the face of his own physical limitations, as Saibaba was 90% disabled, he refused to be silenced. From his wheelchair, he challenged the fascist tendencies of the Indian state, unmasking the true nature of the alleged independence and the continued subjugation of the masses. His sharp intellect and deep understanding of Marxism and the true nature of the Indian state made him a formidable force feared by those in power. In 2014, just as many times before, the state was forced to strike again, arresting Saibaba on trumped-up charges. What followed was a travesty of justice, as he was sentenced to imprisonment under the draconian Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Locked away in the notorious undercell of Nagpur jail, Saibaba's health rapidly deteriorated, yet his spirit remained unbroken. The cell was not suitable for even body-able citizens, let alone a less able citizen. But even in these conditions, he still looked out for other prisoners and championed their causes, which again just shows his steadfastness. Through the years of incarceration, Saibaba's wife, Vasanta, and his comrades tirelessly fought for his release, exposing the hollow nature of the charges and the callous disregard for his medical needs. It was their unwavering determination that eventually led to his acquittal in 2024, after he had spent over a decade behind bar. Tragically, Saibaba's freedom was short-lived. Just months after his release, complications that developed due to the brutal mistreatment in prison, that a routine surgery reclaimed his life, robbing him of the opportunity to truly savor the fruits of his lifelong struggles and allow him to continue to share new knowledges as he wished to do so on various topics, from Marxism to his time in prison. Yet in death, Saibaba's legacy only shines brighter, a testament to the power of the human spirit in the face of systemic injustice. Throughout his life, Saibaba's pen was mightier than any weapon the fascist state could wield. His words are still a rallying call for the oppressed and the revolutionary movements across the world. Whether penning poems that capture the anguish of political prisoners or articulating a sharp critique of India's semi-feudal reality, he wielded language as a tool of resistance. His writings stand as a testament to the transformative power of literature, a medium through which he expressed the universal struggles of the marginalized. Saibaba was a prime example of how an intellectual should act. Whilst working as a teacher, he recognized the force of education as a powerful cultural tool for revolutionary organizing, persisting in his efforts till his final breath, which unfortunately he was denied towards the end of his life by the fascist Indian state, as they knew the risk to their rule of revolutionary intellectuals like Saibaba could bring. Let us learn from the power of the pen as an intellectual weapon in our own ways, link the different struggles of the oppressed, as Saibaba himself recognized and always did. India's brutal oppression to combat the resistance is not unique to Bastar, as the state uses its ideology of Islamophobia and its settler colonial hold of Kashmir. As we see the fascists of Hindwata gaining a ground base in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom alongside other Western countries, we stress on Saibaba's tactics of a united front, rallying progressive democratic groups to mobilize and organize the masses principally on the basis of anti-imperialism, an anti-imperialism that is firmly internationalist, and recognizing and learn from the connections of resistance around the world, from the heroic masses of Philippines, India, Turkey, Palestine, Sudan, Congo, and wherever they may be, oppression against the masses, just as he did. And not just wherever there is oppression, just as Saibaba always did, no matter the type of oppression there is, unite these struggles, whether it's against gendered violence, national, racial, climate, queerphobia, and etc. And finally, as Saibaba did, we should not stop at sympathy, it should also be solidarity. As we honor the memory of Saibaba, let us be inspired by his relentless fight against injustice and his refusal to be silenced. Let us carry forward the torch of his struggle, ensuring that pact of love and blood he forged with the people remains unbroken. For in doing so, we honor not just the life of one man, but the collective aspirations of all yearn for a more equitable, just, and truly free world. Professor Saibaba might be gone, but his legacy lives on, a guiding light for all who dare to dream of a better future. Let us pledge to continue his fight, to amplify the voices of the oppressed, and to never surrender. In the face of adversity, for even in the words of the great man himself, even the earth dies, but there must be many, many earths. And in that spirit, we vow to keep Saibaba's vision alive until the day when justice and liberation reign supreme. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, for that wonderful message. And I do agree that the story of Saibaba and Vasanta is a revolutionary love story, which I haven't come across before. So now we have a message of solidarity from South Asia Solidarity Group that Arman would read, but I see Kalpana is here too, but she's not too well to read that. So, Arman.
If you prefer, I can probably read it.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm personally qualified nor eloquent enough to speak on Saibaba myself. But I will say that his life to me clearly is an inspiration, not just in his activism, but in its entirety, because all of it was resistance. So yeah, the message begins. We are deeply saddened by the passing of Professor G. N. Saibaba and send our sincere condolences and warmest solidarity to his beloved Vasanta and Manjira and all his many friends and comrades who fought so hard for his release. We will continue to mourn the loss of this brilliant and deeply inspiring teacher, scholar, poet, and fearless human rights activist. Only 7 months after the joyful news of Professor Saibaba's release, after an agonizing decade of unlawful incarceration and torture by the state, came the shocking and devastating news that he had passed away in Hyderabad. There is no doubt that Professor Saibaba, as much as Father Stanswamy, Pandu Narute, and other brave human rights defenders who have passed away in custody, was murdered by the fascist Indian state, which was unable to break his spirit during 10 years of physical torture, systematic denial of medical treatment, and mental persecution. This mental persecution extended to even refusing him parole when his beloved mother was dying, as Sagar explained. We will all never forget hearing Professor Saibaba speak so heartbreakingly about this after his release, when he described how his mother used to carry him to school, determined that he would not be denied an education because of his disability. Even before his incarceration, Professor Saibaba faced almost continuous state repression as the state, under successive UPA and BJP governments, attempted to silence him for courageously speaking out for the most oppressed and exploited. Specifically, he tirelessly spoke out for the Adivasi and Dalit communities targeted across central India for corporate plunder and dispossession, and against the violence of the state and the paramilitaries set up by these mining corporates to crush any opposition. In one of the talks he gave to his many friends and supporters after his release, Professor Saibaba mentioned that the prosecution had identified two dangerous words which recurred in his research work, which showed that he was apparently a terrorist. These words were Brahmanism and imperialism, to no one's surprise. This shows how deeply the state is afraid of those who seek to dismantle these bastions of its rule. Yet while they destroyed so many of Sai Baba's precious writings and ultimately murdered the man himself, they will never be able to silence him. He will continue to inspire all those fighting for equality, justice, and a revolutionary future of hope. Rest in power, Professor G.N. Saibaba. They knew how to persecute you and torture you, but they had no answer to your courage and commitment. You will remain an inspiring icon of resistance to injustice for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much for reading that message out, Arman, and thank you, South Asia Solidarity Group, for that lovely, moving message. So now I've got Shishu Ranjan, who would like to make a contribution. Shishu Ranjan is now a student at University of Birkbeck, but he's also part of All India Forum for Right to Education and All India Revolutionary Student Organization.
So thank you everyone for for giving me this opportunity to attend this memorial meeting. Recently, All India Forum for Right to Education organized one memorial meeting in India, and unfortunately I couldn't attend because I was in London. So I couldn't associate with Professor J.N. Saibaba personally in any capacity, but I worked very closely with comrades who worked with Professor J.N. Saibaba, and I heard a lot of things from them, and especially from Professor Hargopal, who was professor at University of Hyderabad. And his talk reminds me when he was the student at the University of Hyderabad, and he was the person who was 90% disabled and working through his hand, and from there to becoming a professor at Delhi University, and then after championing social justice movements in India, it inspires all of the young activist students who are working, who is trying to work for the social justice movements in India. So I must say to all young activists in academia or across the world, across India, who is fighting for the most marginalized people of India, especially SC community, Dalits, women, and minority rights. He is our inspiration to fight tirelessly for all these movements, and I must say that if he would have been alive, he would have been on the streets fighting for the rights, fighting for the marginalized people who are fighting at Bastar, all parts of India, wherever there is incarceration going on against Adivasis. And it reminds one more thing, when one small kid, 1 or 2 year kid who was killed in Jharkhand. I come from Jharkhand, where the corporate loot and plunder is happening right now, and especially the Indian Brahmanical fascist state is militarizing multifoldly every month, where they are trying to set up all forms of militarization, all forms of state machinery system to loot all these minerals, and trying to kill the people who is raging against the Brahmanical neoliberal fascist against this regime. So is the time, and I'm very optimistic when I see people across the globe who are fighting against all forms of plunder and standing in solidarity with Indian people, especially who are fighting at the street, especially who are fighting at the situation where even they are fighting for hunger, fighting for basic issues. So once again, I'm very thankful to everyone, and I salute his courage. I salute his work for people like us who come from marginalized community and who is studying at the neoliberal place of UK, where systems, his teachings taught us that see how neoliberal state look like us. And when I was in India, I went through that transition, that how Indian universities are going towards neoliberalization. So yes, this is the situation in India, and we have to fight. We don't have any choice at all. So red salute to his courage, and I pay him my sincere gratitude for his fight for us. And Jai Bhim, Lal Salam, everyone.
Jai Bhim, Al Salam indeed. Thank you, Shishu. So we now have Abhishek Bhosle, who is the chair of SOAS Ambedkar Society, who would like to come and say a few words.
Thank you, Praveen, for asking me to share and show our solidarity with the people who are in the prison in India, and especially the Saibaba. Today, of course, we are here to honor life and legacy of Professor Saibaba, a tireless scholar, activist, and champion of human rights. Saibaba, a man confined to a wheelchair, transcended his physical limitations to become a beacon of hope for the marginalized and oppressed in India. He used his voice and intellect to expose the systemic injustices faced by Adivasi communities, tirelessly working to dismantle the oppressive structure that perpetuate inequality. I never had the opportunity to meet Saibaba, but I was doing journalism when in 2014 when Saibaba got arrested first. And don't forget, Modi came into the power on the 16th May 2014, the same year when Saibaba got arrested on the 19th May. I think it's just 3 days after the Modi came into the power. It was a beginning in Pune. That time, Mohsin Sheikh was murdered. It was the first mob lynching in Pune happened. And my friend, we were discussing about Sai Baba's work. Sunil Dude was from Nagpur when I was doing journalism in Randed Institute, Pune, and he introduced me the work and life of Sai Baba, and we had multiple discussions about the case and his work afterwards in our canteen. I still remember that days. His academic pursuits, the Sai Baba's academic pursuits were equally profound. Sai Baba's scholarly work delved into the complexities of Indian literature and culture, shedding light on the colonial legacy and its enduring impact. His critical analysis of power dynamics and social hierarchies made him a formidable intellectual force. However, Sai Baba's unwavering commitment to the social justice came at a great cost. In 2014, he was unjustly arrested and imprisoned on spurious charges, accused of having ties with Maoist organizations. This was a blatant attempt to silence a critical voice and suppress dissent. Despite his deteriorating health and the lack of credible evidences, Sai Baba was subjected to harsh prison and conditions and denied adequate medical care. I just want to just mention one point that came in the discussion here. Sai Baba was not the first. He was arrested. Of course, the term urban Naxal was started using highly after the, but it started with the Khairlanji massacre and the protest after that in 2006. And of course, a lot of people went in the prison, arrested after that. But it was the beginning in the last killing after 2014. The incarceration of G.N. Sai Baba is emblematic of a broader trend in India where critical thinkers, activists, and dissenters are increasingly targeted and silenced. The suppression of voices that challenge the status quo has become a disturbing reality, with those who dare to speak truth to power facing the threat of imprisonment and persecution. Sai Baba's life and struggles will continue to inspire people around the world and of course in India who are fighting for the rights of Adivasis. His unwavering commitment to justice, even in the face of adversity, serves as a powerful testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. His legacy will forever be etched in the annals of history, reminding us of the importance of fighting for just and equitable society. Let us honor Sai Baba's memory by carrying forward his torch. Let us stand in solidarity with all those who are unjustly imprisoned and persecuted for their beliefs. Let us raise our voice against the growing authoritarianism and demand a return to democratic values and human rights in India. As we commemorate GN Sai Baba's life, let us recommit ourselves to the struggles for a world where justice, equality, and freedom prevail. Let us ensure that his legacy lives on and inspiring generations to come to fight for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. And if you are not following the work of Subhash Ambedkar Society, please do follow them and follow their work. And we do a lot of work with them. And our next event is that we are doing jointly with them called Iconoclast Book Discussion, which is the latest book by Dr. Intl Tumde, which is coming up on the 26th of November. So now we have got a message from Communist Party of Turkey that Sagar is going to read. So Sagar, do you want to come and read that?
So this is a note from the Communist Party of Turkey, Marxist-Leninist, for Professor G.N. Saibaba. In memory of G.N. Saibaba, G.N. Saibaba, a true revolutionary, a dedicated leader of the people, and a cherished friend. He was a hero whose unwavering stance and relentless struggle against imperialism, oppression, and exploitation will forever live in our hearts and minds. We had the honor of working shoulder to shoulder with him during the IPLS days, contributing together to the fight for justice and freedom. Saibaba was the voice of the most vulnerable people in India, a brave representative of the oppressed. His sharp intellect, profound knowledge, and unshakable faith in revolution inspired us all. He was always an exemplary figure, not just through his ideas, but also his actions. Despite his physical disabilities and heavy persecution, he dedicated his life to his people and his cause. Though physically limited, his spirit and ideals transcended all barriers. The time we spent with him during the ILPS days, the conversations, debates, and planning we shared remain vivid in our memories even today. His friendship was warm and his solidarity was truly revolutionary. The memories of those moments with Sai Baba will forever be a source of hope and strength for us. Sai Baba's struggle, his cause, and his ideals will continue to live on as a legacy for all who fight for the oppressed. His dedication, courage, and ideals will remain a source of inspiration for revolutionaries seeking justice and freedom across the globe. We bow with respect before the memory of Sai Baba. We will never forget the days we shared with him and his friendship. His struggle and his spirit dedicated to revolution will always be with us. Long live Sai Baba's revolutionary legacy. We will keep Sai Baba alive in our struggle.
Thank you so much, Sagar, for reading that message out. Yeah, I think these are the connections which I think a lot of people are not aware of, that Lake also brought to the front, so which we should try and continue and continue raising the awareness of this interconnectedness of the struggle. So I think we are coming close to the end of it. So Lake, you had a poem you want to do. So, but if anyone else wants to say a few words, please do come forward after Lake finishes his bit.
Thank you very much for for allowing me this. It's a I want to recite a four-line poetry which was written by an ideologue of mine. His name was Jagmohan Joshi, who was one of the founding figures of the Indian Workers Association. And unfortunately, he died at a very young age. But he had a very, very close affinity with the Indian Revolution. And it's written in Urdu. I will recite it in Urdu, but just a brief translation of what he's trying to say for those who don't understand Urdu is that he says, raise your anger in hatred skybound. I will raise the heat of resistance from here. You sharpen your swords, and I will gather as many hammers and sickles I can. The blood that is drenched this earth, the blood we will avenge. That blood was belonging to all of us. So in Urdu, he says, तुमात से नफरत सलगाओ, मैं जोशे गजब गरमाता हूँ, तुम तेज करो तलवारों को, मैं तेशे भाले लाता हूँ. जो खून गिरा इस धरती पर, इंसाफ तलब दीवानों का, बेखौफ खतर परवानों का, ए लाल फरेरे तेरी कसम, उस खून का बदला हम लेंगे, वो खून हमारा सबका था.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone, for being very patient and coming along and celebrating with us the life and legacy of Professor Saibaba, who we dearly respect and will continue the work of. So I think we are coming close to the end of it, unless anyone wants to say anything online, people who.
Oh, yes.
Okay, sure.
We will end
Yeah,
with the
so
poem. Yeah,
we will end with the poem, but I think. Sorry? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the event poster for the next event is there, so you can scan the QR code there and register for it. And Sanket is also going to say a few closing notes, but we'll do the poem first and then the closing notes. So thank you.
I really wanted to close with this one. So, I mean, and it was alluded to at different points where different people spoke. Actually, there are two of them. One which is quite reflective of Saibaba, and it's been shared a lot. And it has, like, people were mentioning it. It's called I Refuse to Die. I refuse to die. When I refused to die, my chains were loosened. I came out into the vast meadows, smiling at the leaves of grass. My smile caused intolerance in them. I was shackled again. When I defied death again, tired of my life, my captors released me. I walked out into the lush green valleys under the rising sun, smiling at the tossing blades of grass. Infuriated by my undying smile, they captured me again. I still stubbornly refuse to die. The sad thing is that they don't know how to kill me because I love so much the sounds of growing grass. And like it's very powerful, and just considering his life and how he will not die. It's through what everyone has shared and through what Vasanta and Manjira also spoke, that he's given us a message and something to carry forward, that the fight for freedom has to continue until oppression doesn't end completely. So, which is why he will not die. And there was another short poem which I thought is a good message for people in times of despair, and again the fact that he from prison was writing all of this, I think, is so much more inspirational. It's called Go Shouting Aloud in the Streets. Oh friends, the hearts of my heart, when so much of love is deeply hidden in your hearts, why don't you break your silence at this moment of crisis? Why do you lose all momentous times every time? If such a burden weighs down your eyelids, why don't you sing of love this dark night. This isn't the time to sleep. Listen to me, my friends, Kabir always says. To declare your love, you should go shouting aloud in the open streets. I think that's a good message. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me?
Do you want to sit?
No. Good. So, to be very fair, I don't think I have much to add or say because everything that has to be said has already been said. But we are incredibly happy for all the contributions that the speakers and the audiences have made today in terms of how Professor G and Sai Baba's work has touched them and have taken the time to come out here and celebrate his life and legacy. So, Professor G and Sai Baba's life and the grassroots work he's done, his unwavering commitment to fighting for the rights of Dalits, Bahujans, Adivasis, and marginalized people resisting all forms of imperialism and colonialism across the world, has very important lessons for all of us. For those of us who are contributing to the fight against oppression in whatever way we can, G.N. Sai Baba's writings and poems instill a lot of hope in us to realize our dreams of building a more just and equitable world. The revolutionary fight against oppression is surely one that helps us build communities, practice and spread radical empathy, love, and solidarity, which is something Professor Sai Baba championed. And one of our comrades here, Leila, suggested that we take a couple of minutes to stay silent and actually mourn the loss of Sai Baba and reflect on all of his achievements. So if we could do that, I think it would be great. So I think us having a moment of silence for Professor G. N. Sai Baba is an increasingly powerful move. And I would just like to end by saying that if you want more updates about the work we do at India Labour Solidarity, please consider following our socials and signing up to our mailing list. And also, as Praveen mentioned, this is just another reminder that we, in collaboration with the SOAS Ambedkar Society, have an upcoming event on the 26th of November, which is a book discussion of the latest book written by Dr. Anand Teltunde called The Iconoclast. There's a poster of the upcoming event right by the table So you could scan the QR code and register yourselves if you're interested to come to the event. And please do feel free to stay for a bit longer and help yourself to more refreshments. And if you want to like have a chat with each other about how G and Sai Baba's work touched you personally, it would be great. Thank you so much.